If you're hunting for allocated whiskey, you walk into a shop and you see there's so many bottles on the shelf, you just don't know what to grab, especially when a lot of them are so overpriced. But if you can find that one bottle at retail value, there's no better feeling in the world. We're talking about the top 7 allocated bottles I always pick up when I see them. Let's go! How are y'all doing today? My name's Chris. Welcome back to Bourbinsane. I had a couple people leave me comments in some of my previous videos requesting that I talk about allocated bottles that I actually will buy if I see them. It's hard enough for us all to find bottles that are allocated on the shelf in general, marked up or not. But if you are able to ever find that bottle or even multiple bottles at retail of something you love or something super allocated, it is a great feeling. You know, it really is. And every once in a while, I will come across a bottle, still in this day and age with the way the bourbon market is, that I know I have to have, and if it's at state minimum, I'm always grabbing it. I thought it'd be a fun video today to talk about my top 7 allocated bottles I will pick up every time, if I can find them at my state minimum here in Michigan. That's the big caveat. There's a lot of great bottles out there, a lot of great bourbons out there, so I completely understand if you guys want to stay in that $100 less price point or $60 less price point, even $30 less you can get great bottles for. But today we're focusing on allocated stuff. It isn't for everyone, I understand, but I do want to hear from you. You know, what is that allocated bottle? If you ever see one, you'll pick it up if it's at your minimum price for your state or at retail value. I'm curious to hear. Everything in today's video is going to be things I've actually seen at retail value or been on the shelves. It's not going to be your super allocated stuff like your Pappies, BTACs, stuff I've never ever seen, or if I did, I had to know somebody or get it from behind the counter from somebody. It's going to be stuff I've actually bought at retail, things I've seen at retail. So just know that as well going into this video. If you haven't yet, like this video, subscribe to the channel. We're going to have a fun one today. Let's go into number 7. Coming in at number 7, we're starting out strong with one of the most allocated bourbon companies in the world. Your Buffalo Trace. Stag Jr. Formerly Stag Jr., now Stag. Guess what? At retail, these things are still incredible. State minimum here I think is $63 or $64 for this bottle. And yes, I've seen it at retail. I've seen it on a shelf once or twice. One time marked up, one time it was actually at state minimum. It was at a Michter, and I grabbed it. So very glad to be able to do that. Let me know these days and age, because now they're doing store picks on these. Do you guys ever see these, or do you have to have connections with someone to be able to get a Stag release? With the picks, I think they're probably cutting into the supply even more, although Buffalo Trace has invested huge money into upping their bourbon production and their just barrels they're laying down. So we'll see if that changes in the future. But if we're talking $60 bourbons, I put this and the Jack Daniel's Barrel Proof as the 2 bottles that I think are just the top of the line, you know, top shelf for as far as what you're getting for a barrel proof. I do love the variety you can get in some of the Stags. The one barrel to another, or one release to another, can be completely different, along with the Jack Daniel's Barrel Proof, as just mentioned. I think those single barrels can be completely different as well. If you want a super flavorful barrel proof, I don't think there's anything better on the market. I love everything you get out of this bottle. I like barrel proofs in general, so this, the JD Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, those are the top of the line, and I think for the $60, this is the best you can get. Coming in at number 6, I believe is a super highly underrated distillery in general, but I love what they're doing. Michter's, and this is the Michter's 10-year. I used to buy these bottles when I could actually get them. They were about $140, I think, at retail. And the reason I always got them at that was because I was never burned by a single barrel. This Michter's 10-year release, it is a little bit lower proof, so it's 47.2% is the ABV on it. So it is lower, it's not your barrel proof stuff, but it is a 10-year single barrel bourbon, and it's always really good. Their 10-year releases now is probably all their own juice, and I haven't bought one in a couple of years now just because I haven't seen them at retail. Our state minimum here is about $200 now for these, right around that price. But I still would be buying these at $200. I hate to say it, like I might be a Michter's fanboy. I really enjoy these releases all the time, and everything you get out of this, it's such a delicious creamy oak. The former single barrels that I got years ago Those were all sourced, and they never really disclosed where it was from, but our thoughts were Brown-Forman or Heaven Hill, one of the two. Just thinking back now, it's been years since I've really looked into it, but I'm pretty sure it's Brown-Forman or Heaven Hill. It's fun trying the single barrels, though, and then trying to determine yourself whether it's Heaven Hill or Brown-Forman. So a whiskey enthusiast, someone who loves it and loves the experimenting part of it, it's fun to try these things when you don't know exactly where they're sourced from. Be able to try them, and guess what? They're always delicious. Coming in at number 5 is a more recent release, and fortunately I was able to find this at retail. The Jack Daniel's Heritage Barrel. Now, this first bottle I got of this for the 2025 release was actually over retail. It was $100. But I was able to get another one, luckily, that I've got bunkered, and it was retail. So right around $70-ish or whatever. They're saying this might be a standard release. That's what I've heard rumors of. It's still difficult to find here in Michigan. It's popping up a little bit more and more that I'm just seeing on Facebook pages and stuff, not that I've actually seen in stores. I think this is really the sweet spot of the Jack Daniel's line. Hard for me to say that when I'm such a fan of the barrel-proof bourbon and the rye itself. But this Heritage Barrel, for those of you that don't know, it's a 100 proof bourbon, and it's actually a full-proof bourbon. So what they'll do is they'll put it in the barrel at 100 proof, age it at the very top of the rickhouse at the Coy Hill, and then when they pull the barrels after 7 years, they make sure it's back to 100 proof. So it's actually put in the barrel the same as what it is, and those barrels also use a very heavy toast, I believe it is, so extra char, marshmallowy deliciousness, an absolute dessert bourbon, and there's nothing I don't like about this. Everything you want from a Brown-Forman product. Think 1910, but a little bit more well-rounded, not as char forward, more of kind of that desserty flavor profile. And I'll tell you what, if I see this at $60, $70, every time I'm getting it. Coming in at number 4 is an aged expression from probably the biggest bourbon distillery in the world, Jim Beam. So our Knob Creek, and specifically I'm referring to the 15 year. I do have a 12 year here. I'm not going to call this an allocated bottle because I've seen it 3-4 times a year. When I think allocated, I think once, maybe twice a year at the most. So, but the 15 year I've seen very, very sporadically. In Michigan, the 15 year Knob Creek is right around 150, I think. 130, something like that, is at state minimum. I've only bought one bottle ever of it, so it's hard to say. It was a couple years ago, but I think now it's about 130. For a 15-year expression, it is really hard to beat that price. It really is. Like I said, the M10, Michter's 10-year, 200. And the reason I buy that is just because I love it so much. A lot of people disagree with me on that pick, but the 15-year, now that we can almost never find those single barrel reserve picks that are 12 to 15 years, probably because of the 12 and 15-year label. But the 15 year, I think, between the 12, 15, 18 is their best. I am a fan of high oaked, high aged bourbons. I am. As mentioned, I've only had one bottle of the 15, but the one I had was just wonderful. Sweet, creamy, delicious oak. That nuttiness almost takes a back seat once you get to those older Knob Creek and Jim Beam expressions. It's not as nut forward if you think about it. So the 15 year was just nothing but smooth, delicious, creamy oak. And I love that in my aged bourbon. When you get to the 15 to 18, and I've actually never had the 18, but it can turn on you. You can get a little bit of that bitter oak, the too many tannins come through. I'm not a fan of that, but luckily for me, 15 was great. Could have been my bottle, but I would pick it up again in a heartbeat if I found it at 130. Coming in at number 3, we're going back to the Buffalo Trace well, which, as mentioned, most of them are allocated bottles, so it makes sense. Your Weller Full Proof. Now, I could make the argument with your Weller for the 107, even the Special Reserve in Michigan, because I almost never see those. Maybe once a year and almost always marked up. So hard to include. This is extremely rare for me. Once a year probably at the most. I was fortunate enough to be able to get this at retail on a shelf. Don't know how. And I also got a store pick. Now the store pick I had to know someone, of course, for that because it was very, very hard to find. But we did have a full proof store pick drop a few years back, and that was awesome. Loved it. This is only a $64 bottle at state minimum here in Michigan, I think it is. I mean, at that price, you're getting a weeder, and honestly, love it or hate it, Buffalo Trace probably has my favorite weeded bourbon mash bill out there as far as flavor profile and what you get. The 107 is great. I mean, you cannot go wrong with the 107. It's always delicious, always wonderful. So to get a full proof, that's 114 proof on this, they don't mention age, so we don't know for sure, but you get that same delicious, smooth, creamy, delicious Buffalo Trace cherry, splendid sweetness that you'd love out of it. And the wheated mash bill just adds a whole nother layer to that too. Almost a little breadiness with it too. You can't go wrong. You really can't go wrong. Let me know, have any of you ever seen this at retail? I know full proof still, even now, very, very difficult to find. We're hoping with the allocation, as mentioned, it's going to up in the future. Buffalo Trace will become the most available bottle someday, we hope. I don't think it's ever going to happen, but you never know. But I want to hear if you've seen it, or if not, which of the Weller line have you seen at retail, if any? Coming in at number 2, we're going back to my fanboy roots again. The Michter's 10-year straight rye. This is better than the bourbon. I mean, this is better than the bourbon. This is nothing but candied deliciousness. The aged rye that they use in this M10 is incredible. I mean, I've never, once again, had a bad bottle of these. With both the bourbon and the rye, I've probably had 3-4 full single barrel bottles of them each, and every one of them has been great. This for a rye, you get almost no spice. It's just nothing but candy corn, candy sweetness. All delicious. All delicious. And aged rye, as we know, rye tends to age faster than bourbon, and it does really show up in here. It takes away some of those super bitey, peppery notes that are typically found in rye. You still get your fruitiness, but this just turns into a whole whipped candy on the palate. If you like very desserty whiskeys, desserty bourbons, I know this is a rye, but I think of this more as a dessert than I do just a typical rye whiskey you'll see. Those are the flavor profiles you get out of it. Again, this is back to our expensive price, about $200, but I've never been burned on them. Like I said, I've never been burned on an M10 yet. When I am, or when I do, I'll probably won't get them anymore. But so far, so good. Delicious. I don't know what to say, what else to say about it. If you can ever find one of these, especially I know in other markets, Michigan's expensive. Hopefully you can get it sub 200. It's still a pickup for me at that price. Before we get into our number 1 bottle, do me a favor, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, let me know down in the comments what's that allocated bottle you're buying every single time you see it. My number 1 bottle that I will always buy at retail, Russell's Reserve 13. I could say the 15, but I've never seen the 15, so I haven't tried it either. I was able to get 2 bottles of this. This is my second one, and this is the original release, not the latest release they just put out. This thing is so good. I mean, everything you want out of a Wild Turkey profile is in this bottle. 13 years old, the proof is actually very high as well. It's a 57.4 ABV bottle, 13 years old, and I just love it. I do. The state minimum pricing on this is $170. I've seen it twice at retail. Not at retail price. I've seen one time allocated, one time at retail. I was able to get, luckily. But I think about this similarly like I do the Russell's Reserve single barrel picks, store picks. This takes them to a whole nother level. Like that aged Wild Turkey just opens up a whole new layer of, I've said this multiple times today because we're talking about older stuff, but creamy, sweet cinnamon cherry with the Wild Turkey profile. Cinnamon cherry dessert. It really is like an ice cream or like a cupcake that's like a cinnamon cherry cupcake or something. It's very hard to describe, but all that whipped vanilla, whipped caramel flavor comes through wonderfully. And the amount of oak is on this is just perfect. It's not overwhelming your palate, and it's just the perfect balance of everything you want out of a bourbon. I was talking about those Russell's Reserve single barrel picks. I've had some that I would say some of the Camp Nelson picks that get close to this at only $60, $70, but this is still steps above. It really is. I would take this over everything in the Pappy line I've had. Of course, those are triple the price. This is about $160, $170. Forgot if I mentioned that already. I'm kind of rambling, but always at that price. Always. The 15's 200 plus. I'd probably buy it too, though, just because Wild Turkey's my distillery. And if I'm paying about $200 for the M10s, I'm going to be getting this 5 times over that. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I appreciate you watching the video. All your support does mean the world to me. It really does. Let me know, do you like these types of videos? You like these top 5, top 7 lists? I'm trying to come up with different ideas, interesting things that you guys would enjoy watching. So please do give me some suggestions in the comments. It does help, and I do appreciate it very much. If you haven't yet, please do check out my Patreon page, Bourbinsane.com. I'm doing really cool stuff over there, I feel like at least. You can get some cool merch, behind the scenes stuff, early access on videos, and we have a lot of fun over there. So do me a favor and check that out. Thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate each and every one of you. Stay insane.